All right, everybody, it is officially 1 minute after 11, so I'm going to get started. I want to be respectful of your time, and quite frankly, we've got a lot of content to cover, and I'm hoping that you guys will have some questions on digital transformation. Welcome to our first Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm excited to have you all with us today. This will be an ongoing series, monthly on the second Tuesday of each month. Probably at this time or maybe an adjusted time. We're not sure what's going to work best, but this will be a series that will continue on throughout the year. We will be discussing technology topics that should relate to you and the training business. And I am super excited to kick off the first one here in February for the year. For those of you that are unfamiliar with me, my name is Jon O'Keefe. I'm the Technology Education Jedi here at Logical Operations. I work with our emerging technology portfolio of courseware, and I also do some teaching on the side here for LO and for some other organizations. I specifically do a lot with the Modern Classroom Certified Trainer Program. We've put 5,500 trainers through to this point, and excited to continue that into 2022. My email is down at the bottom. So number one, if at the end of this, you're scratching your head and you're saying, that was a lot of info, I'm not really sure how I want to process it all, and what does it mean for me and my organization? Well, that's totally understandable. This session is being recorded, number one, so you will have access to a recording of this. Number two, I am available at the email address. I'm happy to answer questions. For those of you that are joining us who may have some client-facing necessities in the future, I am happy to help with that as well. You can just get in contact with me and I'll jump into whatever you need to do. Now I'm going to launch a quick poll. I am just curious, for those of you that are joining us today, what your role is inside your organization. A poll should have popped up right now, whether you're the owner operator, whether you're an instructor, if you're in sales, marketing, admin. And then of course, if you just wandered in here off the street and you were hoping to learn about Taekwondo, feel free to select other, because obviously I couldn't think of everything that people are doing here. Sadly, this will not be a Taekwondo lecture because I am not physically capable of lifting my leg anywhere near that high. All right, it looks like pretty much everybody here we've got a couple owner operators, got a bunch of sales folks, some instructors, some marketing folks, some admins, and some folks who are looking for the Taekwondo lecture. Again, my apologies. Hopefully you'll be just as excited to learn about digital transformation. So thank you so much for answering. I appreciate that. Okay, without further ado, let's get into this. So the way this is going to be structured is we're going to cover some basic kind of common ground about what's going on in the world right now to lead up to our understanding of what digital transformation is. We'll go through some of the basics of digital transformation, what's driving it, what's behind it, what it is, what it isn't. And from there, we will then dive into something that should help any training center, any salesperson out there, kind of what you're looking for, the types of businesses you want to be talking to about this, the types of people inside those businesses, what might be driving them, what they might be thinking about, what their challenges are. At the end, we're going to run through a gamut of things available from Logical Operations that help fill those gaps for your organization, right? So at the end of this, if you're thinking, man, I've got a lot of customers that are probably doing this and I need some courses to talk to them about, don't worry, we got you covered. So very excited to present all that information. Now, when I say digital transformation, a lot of different things come to mind. And for me, one of the first things that comes to mind, believe it or not, is baseball. I am not a huge sports fan. I do love football. I do love baseball. I love some other sports as well. But one of the things that I spend a lot of time with is the Ken Burns baseball documentary. And simply being, it helps put me to sleep at night. I listen to it almost every night. So I have become a student of the history of baseball just through kind of osmosis and listening to that documentary because it's very soothing to me. And one of the most interesting things about baseball is it is such an old sport here in the United States. And believe it or not, the beginning of statistical use in baseball started in 1859 when Henry Chadwick invented the box score. So from 1859 until today, we have records of every professional game played and what every professional baseball player did in those games. And as the box score evolved, that statistics for baseball became so large and so incomprehensible that it really just kind of fell by the way in history. That is until the late 70s and early 80s when a man named Bill James invented something called sabermetrics. And sabermetrics is nothing more than the statistical study of baseball using statistics to make better business-driven and data-driven decisions about players. And now that kind of sabermetric statistics has become the popular way of doing that. You can look at the Oakland A's that were made famous in the movie and book Moneyball. You can look at the Red Sox in the World Championship run in 2004. All of this is built on this new fundamental understanding of how we were going to use data. And that's a perfect introduction to what the digital transformation is, because digital transformation relies on one thing, and that is data. Now, as far as many of us who have been in the technology and training industry know, we have been riding certain waves and certain patterns throughout our career. In the early 80s, when LO was founded, it was founded because of the rapid rise of personal computing and the rapid rise of computing at work. Logical Operations started as a computer training center, teaching people things like Novell, Word, Perfect, these old programs that no longer exist anymore, but that's how LO got its foot in the training door, was by utilizing and capitalizing on what was going on in the 80s. In the 90s, we saw a rapid rise of networking and kind of IT roles in general. That's when the IT person started to slowly disappear. You had your rise of your CompTIA certifications, and you had the IT profession going from one person to multiple teams of people. In the 2000s, we saw a lot of programming, a lot of web design and development as the World Wide Web exploded. And then in the 2010s, the last decade or so, we've mostly been focused on the virtualization, cloud computing, and cybersecurity, which are part of the data stream, but due to something that we'll talk about in a second, they can be seen as a little bit more trending towards data, which is where we are now. Everything really revolves around data. Your customers out there, in some way, shape, or form, either want to get data, have data and they don't know what to do with it, are trying to do stuff with it and they're getting bad results, or are trying to use that data to be more customer focused and they can't figure out how to do it. So data is really driving all of these market trends. If you're not talking about data, and that goes all the way to your basic programs like Microsoft Excel, you're missing out on the key driver of the 2020s. Seven of the 10 most valuable companies in the world are built on tying human behavior to data. And we can see this right now in the tension it's creating in Europe when you look at what's going on with Facebook and Instagram, and Europe considering banning those because they collect too much data, and Facebook saying it may not be worth it to operate in Europe because they can't collect the data that they want. So we are in a data economy. Whether you look at that from an individual perspective, like how much is your data worth? You know, what is your individual online identity worth to you? What about all the content you've created? If Facebook disappeared tomorrow, what of yours would be lost forever? or whether you think about it from a company perspective, and that there are companies out there whose whole goal is to collect data and then process it, or there's companies out there that are kind of leaving behind because they don't really have a good or effective data strategy. The data economy is incredibly important. So we've got data. And all of this data leads us to something called the fourth industrial revolution, which is just the historical era that we're in, where now we have moved past simple computing and internet influencing the way we produce goods and interact with our customers. And we are into an era of interconnectedness. This is where digitization and the value of supply chains becomes incredibly important. Nowadays, it is no longer good enough for you to just order your goods and have them shipped and received at a regular beat, because you need to know what goods need to be in your warehouse at a specific time, and you need a data set to tell you that's monitoring your purchasing processes and looking at frequently used items. And all of this needs to be automated and talking to one another so you can be competitive, because price is king. Online shopping has made a lot of certain experiences almost obsolete. Kohl's runs a really funny commercial now. I see it all the time on YouTube, where they talk about in-store shopping and how you can order something online and go pick it up and actually touch it in the store. Whereas 10 years ago, everyone was trying to figure out how to get their stuff online. So the fourth industrial revolution can be very complicated, but for our purposes, it's the interconnectedness of all of this data and how it's supposed to help organizations make better business decisions. Top of that, you have 500 billion internet connected devices by 2030. That will be roughly around 46 devices, 50 devices per person. That's fairly terrifying. If you think you're one person and for one of you, there's going to be 50 devices that are connected to the internet, sending data back and forth, which leads to a massive amount of data moving and being stored and hopefully being understood. We also expect there to be 175 zettabytes of data worldwide. That is 175 billion terabytes. It's a lot of data. Let me put it into perspective for you. By 2025, we're expecting to be generating an amount of data in one day that equals what we generated in all of 2005. So in one day, we'll be generating what we generated in 1 year. That's incredible. So data, of course, is a huge driving component of this. And all of these internet connected devices are, of course, driving the fourth industrial revolution. This will lead to something that, as training providers, should hopefully get you excited. 375 million employees might need to switch occupational categories by 2030. And this statistic is pre-COVID, keep in mind, and they're going to need the proper training to do so. So all of this is coming to a head, and that head is what we call digital transformation. There are 30 technologies that you're going to need to look out for in the next decade. All of them revolve around data. So you, as a training provider, as a salesperson, you're going to be talking a lot about AI, IoT, blockchain, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, automation, data science, all of these things. And guess what? They are all part of digital transformation strategies that organizations are looking to implement. So everything is trending towards this one topic of digital transformation. So you may be asking yourself, if this has been slowly building for the last 10 years or so, as we've moved more and more towards a data economy where we become more and more dependent upon devices and internet connection, why is digital transformation still something that seems so new? And that's because there's a large elephant in the room that has accelerated the digital transformation projects in most organizations. If you are new to DX, if DX is something that is just entering your radar, that's perfectly acceptable, because it has been COVID-19 that has actually accelerated at an incredible pace the amount of digital transformation projects that are going on at organizations of all sizes. Yes, this wonderful thing that just keeps on giving has at least given us an absolutely exciting new training opportunity around DX. So why has COVID-19 drastically changed these projects? Well, digital transformation was considered a nice to have, but not a necessary to have type of project inside an organization prior to 2020. Organizations didn't really necessarily need to have a mobile workforce. They weren't trying to tie their systems all together that were disparate and cloud-based. Many things were stored on mainframes and servers that existed on premises. And we were pretty much good doing business the way we had been doing it. Most restaurants didn't really need an app because people were coming to them and they were sitting down and ordering. However, as you can see here, when we got to March of 2020, we all remember what happened. And then everybody went home and everybody started working from home. And this opened up a whole set of challenges for businesses. How do we keep remote employees connected? How do we keep projects moving? How do we keep our customers satisfied? What types of applications do our customers need to survive during this time? If you think about the rise of the food app, right? How many applications on your phone do you now have that are related to food compared to 5 years ago? You know, it's just something that's changed, and that's a digital transformation that's going on inside organizations. Not to mention that remote work has become a huge talking point, selling point, something that many individuals are interested in. This is the percentage of jobs on Hacker News with remote work as an option. You want to hire the best, you probably have to be willing to offer them remote. And you can see this spike here in data. Now, of course, employees want to stay remote. So that leads to even more digital transformation. You've got 65% of employees want to remain remote full-time, 35% are willing to change jobs to stay remote, and another 35% prefer some sort of hybrid work arrangement. So only 2% of individuals, and I apologize if you're one of them, want to return to the office full-time. So quite simply, the landscape is absolutely changing when it comes to the way that companies hire, work, do business with their customers, and manage their own internal systems. So we have this perfect storm at the moment. We are on the precipice of this data revolution, the decade of data, the 2020s, where we are producing data at such a fast clip, and organizations want to be able to make smarter business decisions with them. We're also at a point now where the technology exists for independent and interconnected systems to take that data, process it, deliver results to business leaders, and allow business leaders to make smart decisions. And if this wasn't enough, COVID-19 has absolutely changed the landscape of ways that organizations have to function. We now have big remote workforces. We have technology gaps that are becoming more and more apparent in organizations as people go remote. Skill gaps are becoming more and more apparent as people go remote, and organizations are looking to maximize what it is that they are doing, whether it's customer facing, government facing, et cetera, so that way they can stay alive during the lean times of the pandemics. And all of this leads us to this concept of digital transformation. And so simply, what is digital transformation? You guys now have a good background understanding of why we're here, what's going on, and kind of the boat that your customers are in. They have a lot of data, or they want to get a lot of data. They want to work and do smart things with that data and have their systems connected to one another, to the cloud, to on-premises, to remote workers. And they're dealing with the stress of COVID-19, of having a remote workforce, of trying to hire qualified candidates, of changing the way that they've been doing things for some companies for hundreds of years. So we are in an era of digital transformation. So let's define it just so we're all on the same page. Digital transformation takes all different types of technologies, and these are names that you've heard before. They take data science, data analytics, AI, automation, networking, the Internet of Things. They take marketing optimization, search engine optimization, internal communication platforms. They take all of these things, and through the process of getting these technologies to work together, the company's goal becomes creating new business processes, culture, customer experiences. So an organization wants to take all of their technology and all of their information and get it to work in such a way that their people and their customers are getting a brand new experience, a better experience, something that excites the customer. They want to use all of their tools that they have, plus onboard new tool sets, and they need to change the way in which they have internal and external processes to do that. So that's where digital transformation comes in. If you've ever shopped at a store, and then the next time you went in, you realize that they changed something about the store layout or the customer checkout experience, organizations going to more touch screens, more self-checkout, et cetera. That is part of digital transformation. Maybe you have to scan your phone to pay now. And when you scan your phone, of course, the next thing they can do is deliver you a coupon. Maybe you turn on geolocating, and then those stores know where you are based on your location. They can tell when you're driving past them, and they can offer you something while you are on the move. These are all digital transformation techniques that organizations are exploring. There are three key areas of enterprise digital transformation for large businesses. The first is really the customer experience. It's working to understand customers in more detail, using technology to fuel customer growth and creating more customer touch points. So you can think of any number of ways in which a business might do that. The first is an app, right? An application. On my phone, I have several fast food applications. Those of you that know me know I love to eat. I have the Wendy's app. The Wendy's app is a good one because every day Wendy's tells me what their specials are. Now, Wendy's can be completely out of mind for me. I might be sitting at home because I work from home, not thinking about it, and then I'll get a notification on my phone that says, oh, it's free chicken nuggets day. And we all know John can't pass up free chicken nuggets. So that leads me to transact with an organization that I had no plans on transacting with them. Now, in order to do that, they have to build up customer data points on me. They need to have an app. They need to track my purchase history. They need to know customers who look like me, what they're doing in order to serve me offers. Because if they serve me an offer on coffee, I wouldn't take it because I don't drink Wendy's coffee. I think that's weird. No offense to anyone who does, but that's not what I'm going there for. So they need to understand me, and that's what businesses are really working on. Two is operational processes. So you want to improve internal processes by leveraging digitization and automation. Imagine if there had to be a person assigned to me, like my own personal Wendy's agent, that was looking at what I was buying and then sitting in a room thinking of, oh, what would John like to eat today? That's impractical, although I would highly suggest Wendy's do that given the volume that I give them. But more important, it's an impractical way of doing business. So you need to be able to collect this data, automate it, and then make smart decisions and have that process exist for not one person, but millions of people. And finally, the third thing that businesses are working on is business models. So that's in the tools. Transforming businesses by augmenting physical offerings with digital tools and services. Netflix. Now, I'm assuming, given the industry we work in, that most of you are old enough to remember that Netflix used to be a physical product that it would come to you in the mail and then you'd mail it back. And that was how we interacted with them. And then once they were able to switch to streaming, they could completely change their business model. As a matter of fact, their business model is now highly dependent upon production of their own content. They're no longer a content house, but they are a content farm. They are creating content and they are licensing that content to other content houses, which is how they're able to continue, quote unquote, making money. I don't think Netflix has actually made any money in a long time, but the idea being there. So digital transformation, big, huge project at most organizations. So here's a question for you. Has this come up in your day-to-day conversations? Do you have clients currently doing digital transformation projects? Have you heard that term before? And are you familiar with it? So essentially, have you ever gotten on the phone with the decision maker and they say, yeah, we're in the middle of a DX project. We're in the middle of changing some of our systems digitally. All right. We're getting close to almost everyone answered. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you answering the polls. Give it another 30 seconds or so. Now remember, there's no wrong answer to this. All right, we got a good number of people who participated in the poll. I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and share the results. So we've got 50% said yes, 15% said no, and 35% said not sure. So we're 50-50 on this, essentially. We've got half of you have heard of DX, or you're working with clients that have maybe mentioned it, or they're starting to get into it. And 50% of you haven't come across this yet. Thank you for your answers here. So those of you that have come across it, you've likely come across it from either one of your contacts at your organization or that has been given a project from leadership. Currently, leadership is what is usually driving digital transformation. So it's coming from the top inside of most organizations. It's not usually a grassroots effort. So these are 5 strategies that leadership, according to Forbes, are trying to implement to grow their digital transformation projects. The first is have a clear strategy. So you don't necessarily need to be a cutting edge expert, but strategy is part of this. So for those of you with contacts that are higher up inside of organizations, you want to start thinking about how you can talk business strategy with them. And then that goes on to the second point, which is all about tech gaps in leadership. If you work with the upper echelon inside any sort of organization, you probably have a good understanding of what it is that they are good at and what it is that they're not good at. For most leadership positions, tech strategy can be an area of opportunity. So you're going to want to help anyone that you're talking to identify what the gaps currently are. Does the CTO, has it been 20 years since they've been in the trenches? Do they really know what is going on in the systems? Is the CEO have any sort of understanding of what an AI or a data science project might entail as part of digital transformation? Third, you're going to want to ask big questions. So when you're talking to leadership, usually digital transformation projects are all about big questions. How can we get more customers? How can we grow our sales? They're not the type of projects where it's, how can we cut our shipping costs by 2%, right? They're going to be asking big overarching questions that are going to involve multiple departments and multiple systems. Now, from a leadership perspective, you're going to need to understand their current tech level inside of the organization. When a mom and pop pizza shop that has one IT person, but they've got 10 franchises and they want to do a DX project, They may need to increase hardware and software capabilities. They may need to increase training. There are a lot of things that come along with the digital transformation project, but it's a great area to probe. And finally, what is the value of your data? And this is a super important question you should be asking every customer that you talk to. Whether you're selling them a leadership training class where they can help develop strategies, whether you're selling them a biz level class to help their C-suite understand technology a little bit better, whether you're helping them answer big questions through data analytics training or through programming training, whether you're selling them new training, new technology, the biggest question you should always be asking is, what are you doing with your data? How are you exploring your data? How are you using your data to help make better business decisions? Now, what you see in front of you here is an example from the Boston Consulting Group, who's one of the world's leading providers of digital transformation services, about what a digital strategy roadmap might look like. One of the first things you're going to want to understand is that does the organization have a digital vision? You're usually going to ask these questions of your decision makers because you want to know where they're at in the process. So what's their digital vision? What are they trying to accomplish? And that'll usually boil down to something that you can then take into a training offering. They may say, we want to have a better application. We want to have a better app that everybody uses. Okay, well, that's a programming type training offering. We want to be able to make better decisions based on our data. Okay, that's a data science, data analytics style training offering. We want to be able to automate things. We've got a lot of processes that are manual. We want to automate. Okay, that's an AI style training. So you want to look at what their digital vision is. You want to make sure that they've done competitive advantage assessments and that they've got a transformation roadmap. But more importantly, you want to be asking questions about what they're trying to get out of their digital transformation. Now, I know half of you said you've run into this, but according to BCG, 80% of companies are planning digital transformation projects. So for those of you that haven't come across this, it's because the organizations you're talking to either haven't told you or they're in the pre-process planning phase. But most organizations out there right now are looking to do some sort of DX project, whether it's build a new website, enhance the customer experience, build a new app, automate internal processes, make better decisions with their data. All of these things fall under digital transformation. So the most important thing, again, that you can ask is of any customer you call on, what are you doing with your data? And do you wish you could get better results out of your data? Because that leads to so many different training opportunities. Now, we've got a but here. 80% are planning DX projects, but 73% of these will fail. And let me tell you, this is actually really good news for you, because much like data science, the first round of digital transformation projects have largely been unsuccessful and not yielded great business results. And that is because organizations are going into this with a myriad of problems that they haven't solved. So why do these things fail? First, not having data in the right place, not having the right data. This is a huge problem. Organizations may have been collecting data for 10 to 20 years, but they don't have the right stuff. And this is all about data science, right? They don't have the right programs in place. They don't have the right skills in place. And this should be making your mouth water. 73% of DX projects have failed because they don't have the right skills. So when they go to do this again, the first thing they're going to be looking to do is skill up. There's challenges with implementing new tech onto broken systems. There's challenges with employees. A lot of employees are resistant to change. Think about any time inside your organization when you've changed a digital system, there's always at least one person that spends an inordinate amount of time complaining about how the old way was better. There always is. I know that some training providers You change your website and then all of a sudden your customers tell you, oh, it was much easier to use the old website. Right, but we're trying to do something with yeah, but it's easier to use the old website. We've all heard this conversation before. Failure to set clear end user experience goals, miscommunication of the goals of the project, not coordinating goals across teams, mistaking digitization for digitalization. That's a big one. Utilizing an outdated tech stack and a lack of commitment. So there's a lot of reasons why DX projects fail. The good news is that 80% of organizations, 4 out of 5, you make 20 phone calls, you're going to get 15 customers on the line that are doing a DX project. That's awesome news. That's great news for you guys. So hopefully by this point, even if you've never run across a DX project in the wild, you're excited, you're thinking about the possibilities of what's out there. You know that data is driving the economy. You know that the fourth industrial revolution is making everything interconnected. And you know that COVID-19 has caused organizations to embrace change much faster. You also know that this digital transformation, this kind of using all of these technologies together to get different results like better business decisions, more customers, better apps, better internal processes. You know that this is all going out in the marketplace, but a lot of these projects are failing. So that's some great background information. It's a good understanding of what DX is. So let's talk about who you should be talking to. This is the acceleration caused, meaning that these are organizations that were not planning a DX project previous to COVID and who now are planning DX projects previous to COVID. You can see here, technology, energy, healthcare, construction, retail and e-commerce, manufacturing and automotive, professional and technical service, and finance. And they range between 78 and 60%. So that means at the minimum, most organizations, 60% of them are looking at, have looked at rapid acceleration of DX projects. So what does all this mean? The good news for you guys is that this is not an industry thing. Meaning that if you are calling on most industries, they are going to be participating in digital transformation projects. It's out there. It's what they're going to be looking to do. They're going to want to talk about it. Secondly, most organizations now want an app, right? Whether you're a small restaurant chain in Rochester, New York, who makes pizza, or you're a large national burger chain like Wendy's, you need an app to stay competitive. 42% of organizations are already planning apps, and 30% are planning them in the near future. So you've got 70 some odd percent of businesses are in the process of or planning applications. So if any of your customers are in the business of making apps or are considering making an app for what they do, they're a great target for digital transformation projects. So you've got all industries and then anyone who's talking apps to you. Now, as far as individuals, the biggest driver in most organizations around analytics and data is the big cheese, the CEO. So most organizations have a CEO or someone high level who's involved in the strategy of all of this. So if you're regularly having conversations with people at that echelon inside your organization, that's where you're going to find your digital transformation projects. Now, if you're not, if you're stuck in just the IT world, right, you're just talking to IT directors or you're talking to HR directors, you may need to elevate or ask those folks to elevate around digital transformation. Because there's a good possibility that an HR department or an IT department or a marketing department or a sales department will be touched by a digital transformation project, but they won't be leading it. Most of the times, those leaders will be high-level individuals inside an organization. So this is your opportunity to go out and talk to them in a broad perspective about projects that they're looking to change their entire organization. It's a great way to become a trusted ally and to ensure your business relationship with these types of customers. The reason we don't want to go at line level employees around this stuff is because they're struggling with it. Over 48% of employees tend to follow their gut instinct rather than relying on data-driven decisions. So if you're talking to Bob in accounting about digital transformation and data streams and all of this, half the time, Bob doesn't really believe in it. And Bob won't believe in it until it becomes a company-wide initiative, and then Bob has to believe in it. And so only 37% of employees have greater faith in decisions when they're based on data. So if you're saying to yourself, I wonder why I'm not hearing more about digital transformation, it's because if you're talking to regular employees, to line level employees, to mid-level managers, they're still kind of stuck in their old ways. They're going to do things that work for them. To uncover these opportunities, you have to go a little higher. The other thing that you're going to run into is that when you get to the right person, you're going to find that most of these organizations have no idea what they're doing with their data. So this isn't necessarily something that's already pre-thought out by every CEO that's out there. If you talk to someone and say, yeah, we're considering starting a digital transformation project, we want to get more data and we want to make better business decisions with that data, 4 out of 5 companies that you're talking to, the same percentage that want to do this don't have the right technology or skills in place. Now, right now, you should be thinking, this is awesome. This is great news. Because I have an opportunity to talk to maybe some individuals inside the organization that I don't normally talk to. These are company-wide initiatives, so I can find information out by going to individual departments. And most organizations don't know how to do this. They don't have the right skills. They don't have the right hardware. And so what does that equal? That equals training opportunities. So not having the right data in the right place, that's training. Not having the proper skills to do any of this stuff, that's training. Implementing new tech on broken systems and working with employees' resistance to change, that's all training. Miscommunication of goals of the project, that's project management training, it's training. Not coordinating goals, it's training. Utilizing an outdated tech stack, that's a training opportunity. Lack of commitment, training, all of this stuff revolves around training. These DX projects are failing because they don't have the right training. And so this is now something that you can go out because you know who to talk to. You understand the pain points that are there, and you know that training solves a lot of these issues for your customers. So as far as digital transformation goes, it impacts all industries. You don't need to get stuck in a vertical. Obviously, technology and retail and customer-facing enterprises are going to have more going on, but almost every vertical is doing some sort of digital transformation project internally. Impacts all industries. 80% of companies are planning for it currently. So 4 out of 5 customers that you call have something in the hopper under this DX umbrella. Typically requires leadership buy-in. So you're not going to see this project start low and fail. You're going to see it start high and spread lower, which is really awesome. It impacts all departments and it requires a ton of training out there. So for our last few minutes, I want to talk about the different training offerings that Logical Operations has that you can work with us to deploy to your customers. You understand digital transformation. It's this umbrella term that encompasses data, the 4th industrial revolution, COVID-19, and basically companies that want to change the way they do business and make smarter business decisions, automate processes, reach out to more customers, have a better customer experience. It's this big term that covers all these little things that all revolve around training. So let's talk about who we can train. Well, remember, the majority who are driving this are CEOs, and they want it to be an organizational project. So there are a lot of organization-wide classes, but also C-level classes you can offer customers. You've got the entire CertNexus portfolio of biz level classes. So that's number one. CyberSafe, of course, is an organizational wide training that any business can benefit from, as it helps make their employees a little bit more secure when it comes to protecting data, using online systems, and other processes that will go along with a digital transformation process. AI and DS Biz are no-brainers for C-suite individuals, along with DE Biz, which is data ethics business, because what that will essentially do is give any high-level manager a good 2-hour overview of these basic technologies. And it will help them understand key terminology, when projects work, when they don't, so they can make smart decisions. This is absolutely what anybody who's thinking about engaging in a digital transformation project should do before they get started. And then finally, for those that really want to dive further in, the Certified Ethical Emerging Technologist is a more advanced certification that covers data ethics in a way that is more advanced than DE Biz. So you've got 6 different classes you can offer, plus any sort of other project management classes around a C-suite or management level agenda. Now, once they kind of understand their project, a couple of things are going to happen. They're going to require data to be accumulated in better ways, in faster ways. And the number one thing you're going to want to be talking about, believe it or not, is SQL. SQL and its variants, MySQL, NoSQL, any sort of database management language. Believe it or not, this is the number one area that most organizations are lacking when it comes to data. They can collect it. They've got good data feeds. They may even have someone who's pretty good at analyzing it and kind of throwing it together in Excel. But what they don't have is any sort of proper database management where the data is being wrangled, put through, cleaned, etc. So SQL, if you're not talking about SQL, then you're missing out on a huge piece of the digital transformation pie that's out there right now. So SQL should be a huge takeaway from this presentation. You've got your greatest hits. You've got your Excel. Pretty much everybody in here has probably sold an Excel class or talked about an Excel class. If any organization is coming to you and they want to do an Excel training, that should be a quick red flag to say, let me kick up the ladder a little bit and see what's going on around digital transformation. Maybe they're trying to get their employees better at Excel because they're trying to collect more data. Maybe they're trying to do some basic data analytics. So that should be a huge red flag. If you see Excel, you sell an Excel class, your next call should be to the person above the HR and say, hi, we're working with you on Excel. Let's talk what you're doing about digital transformation. And then from there, they're going to dive into something that you'll be able to offer training around. You've got Power BI and Tableau, and you've got Python. If you offer programming languages, I suggest obviously object-oriented programming languages, but we'll get into that in a second. But Python is a great data science and analytics training path. So folks who are interested in that profession are looking for these skill sets. Again, talk SQL, talk Excel, talk Power BI, talk Tableau, talk Python. Those are big components of digital transformation. Now, you want to get further than that, right? If you're working with a really big customer and they say, well, you know, those are great, but we want to really go further down the stack. That's where the CertNexus, certified AI practitioner and certified data science practitioner and certified ethical emerging technologist come into play. These are advanced level certifications that individuals can use kind of at the end of their journey around these individual topics. So you're talking about automation, you're talking about data science, you're trying to drive kind of these bigger adoptions inside a large organization. Getting some managers to this point would be a great goal. It provides a great end game for someone who's working in data analytics or for someone who's working in data management. And then as far as application engineers, you're going to want to talk object-oriented programming. You're going to want to talk Java, C#, Ruby, Python, PHP, JavaScript, etc. One of the biggest opportunities that's out there right now in the coding world is security around coding. There aren't a lot of certifications out there right now because, quite frankly, most languages develop too quickly. But using the OWASP top 10, the CertNexus wrote Cyber Secure Coder, which is great for any organization that's doing app development. Nothing will tank a business faster than a security breach, especially a medium or a small business. And apps are notoriously buggy for that. Cyber Secure Coder can help application engineers, application developers develop their skill set. If they're leaning more towards automation, you can look at Certified AI Practitioner. And then, of course, we've got cloud and IoT, because a lot of this digital transformation stuff is around the cloud. A lot of people really struggle when it comes to understanding cloud and IoT. And so 2 certifications that can be really beneficial: CIOTP, which is Certified IoT Practitioner, and CIOTSP, Certified IoT Security Practitioner. Now, of course, vendor cloud training, things like Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, all of those fall into this. A topic that I don't really cover, of course, project management is a huge part of this digital transformation. But as you can see, over the course of this presentation, there's a lot that you can be offering to folks who are interested in talking about DX. Digital transformation gives you the opportunity to talk to maybe some different people inside the organization, gives you a chance to talk to people that are higher up if you don't necessarily talk to them. And it's such a broad topic that it usually will encompass cloud IoT or application engineers or data scientists and analytics or CEO or management level. There's training pretty much for everyone inside a business on digital transformation. So whether you want to start big and go small or start small and go big, you have a plan of attack inside these organizations. And Logical Operations, of course, can help you with the courseware, certification, sales calls around all of these topics. So what's next? So the first thing is that you've got my email, jedijon@logicaloperations.com. Please feel free to email me with any questions. The video recording of this will be made available along with the presentation deck in a PDF format. I'm happy to make that available. And I'm happy to work with you should you have any questions or customers who you want to talk to this about. Number 2, I suggest you check out Logically Speaking. Logically Speaking is our monthly newsletter, and it is a great resource of information. Our topic in January was digital transformation. There are many articles in there about digital transformation, as well as an instructor corner, content and curriculum corner. All of those things are available in Logically Speaking. If you're saying to yourself, how come I'm not getting Logically Speaking? Well, if you're not getting it, all you have to do is either shoot me an email and say, I'd like to receive Logically Speaking, and I'll forward it along. Or you can go to the Logical Operations website, and then under the hamburger, there's a whole little thing that says Insights, and then there's newsletters, and you can sign up for it there. It comes once a month. It contains all of this information, and we'll have information on the upcoming Tech Talk Tuesdays that we'll be doing. Finally, 2 weeks from today, we will be doing a customer-facing DX presentation. So it'll be similar to this, except it'll be aimed at your customers. You work for training centers, you train yourself. If there are any clients that you would like to have attend that, we would be happy to have them. And we will be presenting information on what to do about digital transformation. So at the end of the presentation, they come back, they call you and they say, hey, Todd, I just attended that presentation and boy, do we have a lot of work to do. When can we get started with some training opportunities? So if you're interested in that, a website will be emailed to you or made available to you, and you'll be able to have your own customers attend that. And with that, I'd like to open the floor for any questions. can feel free to throw them in the Q&A or the chat. If you don't have any questions, you are free to take 5 minutes of your life back and enjoy your lunch or your dinner or whatever is coming next for you. You're welcome. Again, this has been recorded. The recording will be made available along with information on how to get your customers signed up for our next presentation. Take care, everyone. Sanjay has a question. Sanjay, I hope you're still here because I'm going to answer it. Obviously, blockchain is a big part of the digital transformation. It's a big part of the digital transformation strategy, right? So that's the first thing, is obviously it's there. AI and machine learning training, I really believe that the certifications we have from CertNexus are top notch. They are great. Both CDSP and CAIP are great certifications in that specific area. Obviously, they have a pretty high barrier of entry. So I'm excited for Sanjay, for you should check those out for sure, because they're really good. We don't really have much on blockchain. Blockchain's weird because it's evolving so much, and it's tough to stay on top of. And that isn't something that we put a lot of emphasis on, but the AI and machine learning stuff we definitely have. Michelle, how do you get started with DX? Okay, great. Great question. If this is something you want to start teaching, the first suite of training classes should be the biz level classes, because so that's AI and DS Biz is where I would start. AI and DS Biz, Michelle. Oftentimes CertNexus or myself from Logical Operations puts on 2-hour versions of those classes where you can attend. And then you can attend and get the certification, see how the class is taught. And then that's what I would start offering clients. Now, those are pretty high in the stack. So they're aimed at your C-level folks, your management level folks. From there, I would recommend, if your interest is in data, I would recommend going through and looking at our data analysis and visualization with Excel class. And then Power BI is a great stepping stone. There's a lot of demand out there for Power BI. But there's a lot of directions you can go with digital transformation. And the place to start is really to understand the technologies that are involved. And the two biggest technologies that are involved are artificial intelligence and data science. So the AI and DS Biz classes were where I would start. Feel free to email me and I can see if I can get you a schedule of when those classes are running. All right. Okay, everybody, you have a wonderful day. Enjoy your lunch, and look for the recording for this. You'll get an email when it is posted. Thank you very much. Take care.